welcome to another kitchen table clay. This time I'm going to do a small bowl shape using a bowl that I have at home as my former piece. So I'm just going to work with a slab and use that to make the bowl, and then I'm going to decorate it with some slip techniques. So I'll do a little bit of sgraffito and a little bit of slip trailing, but nothing too elaborate. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so we're going to start this one with the bowl that I'm going to use as the former. A bit of cling film because we need to line the bowl, because if you put the clay straight inside the bowl it's going to stick to it because it's not porous. A knife, rubber kidney, obviously a block of clay, my slip pot, although we shouldn't need too much of that at this point, a rolling pin, and the pillowcase down on the table again to make a porous surface. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is roll out the clay. It obviously needs to be a piece big enough to fill your bowl. Think a bit like a pie case. You're rolling out enough to fill the pie tin. And as usual, we're going to roll and then flip over. Roll and then flip over. Just to try and help with cracking, or stopping it from cracking, I should say. Once you're close to the thickness that you want, if you just gently roll over the surface in lots of different directions, it will quite often level out any humps and hollows that you have left from your rolling. You can of course use guides or a slab roller if you have one. Okay, we're now just going to line the bowl. I tend to use cling film, but you can use anything thin. Porous is better, so you could use fabric or kitchen towel or something like that. The only problem I find with fabrics is they're a bit thick, so you end up with big wide crease marks behind. So I quite like kiln film. It's not very environmentally friendly though, so I will find an alternative. Kitchen towel works, but you have to be careful it doesn't stick to the clay, because the clay is obviously wet. Right, now I've actually rolled out quite a bit of clay here. I'm going to get rid of some of the edges that I know aren't quite up to scratch. And then when you pick the clay up, oh, I should say the thickness that you want is the thickness that the side of your bowl is going to be. So don't make it too thick unless you're going for a nice chunky look. If you pick slabs up using wide hands and your arms, it helps. If you try and pick them up with your fingertips, they'll tear. Right, so again, a bit like a pastry case, we're going to fold the slab in. So you kind of need to let its weight drop it down where you want it to go. It will stretch a bit, so you don't want the original slab to be rolled out too thin. It's easier with wide open bowl shapes like this one. If you have high closed shapes, they can be quite tricky. Right, you can use your fingers to gently push it down. Obviously if you press too hard you'll stick your fingers through it. And then we're gonna, again, just like a pastry dish, we're just gonna trim the excess from around the edge. You can see I've I've left the fold in there at the moment because I don't want to have to deal with that while I had all the extra clay on there. Can you see? I've got big bunch of extra clay going on here. So we're going to need to cut some of this out. The easiest way to do that is to cut up the middle of the fold there. So I'll do it from this side, but we're going to cut like that so that it opens up. And then we're going to push one of those sides back into place against the side of the bowl, like that. Now you can see they meet up now, there. So we're just going to trim that extra off, and then the same with that side. And this is where that little bit of slip is going to come in, because we're just going to put a bit of slip between the two, just in here. This will mean a join on the outside when you take it out that will need some tidying, but it tends to give a good join. You can leave it as a feature if you like it as well. Right, and then just blend. Now I'm using the sense of touch to make sure that it's fairly level and I haven't left a big bump where the two pieces of clay overlap. Right, so now we can trim down this top a little bit more neatly. I say, again, exactly like a pie dish. Now, whatever angle you cut with your knife blade at this point is obviously the angle that the top edge of your bowl is going to be. Having said that, we are going to do some more tidying a bit later, so it can change. All of those can be wedged back up again and used again. Or you could keep them and do decoration with them if you want. So I've now got rubber kidney, and I'm just going to use it to smooth the inside of the bowl. Now I am pressing into the cling film, so not only will I have the join to tidy up, I will have the marks from the overlaps and folds in the cling film on the outside there when it comes out of the bowl. This smooths things, but it also helps even things up as well. Can make things a little bit more delicate as well, so it thins it out a little. See, it's worked up the edge of the bowl again, so I'm just going to give it another trim. If you trim with the knife pulling from the center to the outside, it keeps the center edge slightly neater, although we'll be tidying that later when it gets a bit drier as well. There we go. That is step one. Now we leave it to dry. I need it strong enough to come out of the mould, but not so dry that I can't do anything with it, because I want to add little feet or foot ring or something on the bottom so that it stands up nicely. And like I said, I'd like to do some slip work on there. I find the best time to apply the slip is about leather hard, so it needs to dry a little bit before I can do that. There's nothing to say you can't add slip at this point. I have and do add slip onto wet clay. Just doesn't lay down quite such a nice neat coat. Okay, so I'll see you again in a few hours. Okay, it's been a few hours now, so it's pretty much leather hard, just shy of that point. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can use a hairdryer. I have to admit I did. It wasn't quite drying as fast as I wanted. It's a bit slower when you've got the cling film behind it, because it can't dry from the underneath. It's only got the one surface to dry from. So this is now at a point where I'm ready to apply the slip for this graffito. So I'm going to apply some slip in a pattern on one side. Well, sort of a side. If you can see grey through your colour from the slip, then you will see clay through your slip. It's quite often worth applying more than one coat. And you want to make sure you've got nice, if you're going to do edges, make sure you've got nice solid edges. So a fair amount of slip on your brush when you're doing edges. I don't know how well you can see on the camera, but as the sheen disappears, you can tell the slip is drying off. I'm just going to have a look at that and see if that's covered as well, or as much of a pattern as I would like. I'm going to alter that a little bit. Curve it around rather than back. Shape better. Right, that's one coat. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes to dry off a little bit, and then I'm going to add a second coat. Okay, time for the second coat. And we dry again, and then a third coat. I try to work with it fairly quickly because you get fewer brush strokes in it when it's wet. If you let it dry off a bit, you can see the brush strokes much more. dry off again a bit. While it's doing its final drying off though, I'm going to do the slip trailing on the other side of the pattern, so that I can then come back and do the sgraffito on this side. Okay, so the coloured slip I've put on this side is now pretty much touch dry. You wouldn't want to knock it or dig a nail in because it will mark it quite easily, but it's firm enough that I feel confident enough to start doing the slip trailing on this side. I'm going to, I think, change your camera angle to see whether I can get a better angle for you to see what I'm doing, because I'm going to have to work on this like that. So I'm going to try a different angle. Let's see how we go. Okay, so hopefully this will work and the bottle won't just be in your way. I've just put my slip in little squeezy bottles that I've bought that have the snap-on lids. The only thing with these lids is they're attached, and these can get in the way sometimes while I'm doing the slip trailing. So I'll see how I get on, but I might end up cutting that lid off so that it's out the way. The design I'm going to do for the slip trailing. So now it's just got to wait a little bit for it to dry again. Okay, so I've given that a bit of time to dry, and a quick dry with the hairdryer as well, so that it doesn't run as I'm moving the bowl while I do the sgraffito on the other side. Now I've got a ribbon tool or a wire tool with just a loop at that end. And I've also got a knife, a curved blade tool that I find they both work quite well for this, depending on the types of marks you want to make. So to do sgraffito, you basically put a layer of coloured slip down, leave it to dry, and then you scrape through it so that you can then see the clay colour behind the slip, so that it comes through in a pattern. So let's have a go at that for this side. back to it and have a look, see if there's anything I want to add or change. At the moment I'm thinking I might put some of the slip trailing colour on this side to blend things together a bit, but I need to step away and have a look and come back for that one. Okay, while I'm thinking about making any changes to the inside, I'm going to take the bowl out and tidy up the outside. So I'm going to undo the cling film that I've put around. And gently lift the bowl and then just peel away the cling film. Now the outside edge is wetter because it hasn't had the drying time or procedures because it's been covered in cling film, so it's a little bit damper, so just bear that in mind while you're working with it. And I'm going to turn it over on to the board and just give it a quick smooth over with a rubber kidney, because you can see all the marks made by the creases in the cling film. And I just want to tidy it up a little bit. We'll also have the join somewhere in here that will need a smooth over as well. I was wondering about giving this bowl feet or a foot ring, but actually it sits quite nicely. So I think I might just leave it. The edge is going to need a tidy up. So there's a little bit more tidying up to do, but that is pretty much the bowl. If you wanted to put feet on, you would just make some little balls to put underneath, use scoring and slip method, so you scratch the bottom of both surfaces, put a bit of slip between and put them on the bottom. Could do a ring, foot ring, so you just roll a little coil, make a ring, and again score, slip, put that on the bottom. You can blend that in if you'd like. It's completely up to you. Like I say, this one's sitting quite nicely, so I think I'm just going to leave the bowl as it is. But there we go. So that's it. Okay, that's it for this video. That's the bowl with the Sgraffito where we've put the slip on the surface and scratched through, and the slip trailing where I've used a squeezy bottle to trail out slip, a bit like piping icing. Both methods are great ways of decorating. They put instant colour on your pieces before they go in for their first bisque firing, which is sometimes very useful. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Bye.